Today on Bench Briefs, we're looking at a fascinating case from the Federal Court of Appeal that tackles the complex intersection between immigration, administrative law, and constitutional rights. On this episode, we dive into Ashurova vs. Canada Attorney General, a 2026 decision that explores how far the courts can go when reviewing administrative decisions that impact someone's fundamental rights. So, what's this case about? At its core, it involves Ashurova, an immigrant to Canada who faced a decision by a federal administrative tribunal that affected her immigration status. Not happy with the outcome, she challenged the decision, arguing that it violated her rights under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, specifically her right to life, liberty, and security of the person. She took the matter to the federal court trial division, seeking judicial review to quash the tribunal's decision. Now, this might sound straightforward, but there are some tricky legal questions at play. First, can the federal court even grant what's called certiorari, a court order that quashes or sets aside the tribunal's decision in this context? In other words, does the court have jurisdiction to intervene in this way when an administrative tribunal's ruling touches on constitutional rights? Second, did the administrative decision actually infringe on Ashurova's charter rights? The charter protects fundamental rights like life and liberty, but not every administrative decision that affects a person's status or security necessarily violates those rights. The court had to carefully consider whether the tribunal's ruling crossed that line. And third, assuming the decision did affect constitutional rights, what's the right standard or scope of judicial review? Courts generally give some deference to administrative bodies, recognizing their expertise and role in decision making. But when constitutional rights are at stake, does that deference change? How deeply should a court scrutinize an administrative decision? To understand why this matters, let's unpack the facts a bit more. Ashurova's immigration status was on the line because of the tribunal's ruling. Immigration decisions can have life-altering consequences. Losing status can mean deportation, separation from family, or even threats to personal safety. When such decisions are challenged, courts must balance respect for administrative decision-making with the need to protect fundamental rights. The Federal Court Trial Division initially heard the case, but the Federal Court of Appeal was asked to weigh in on these jurisdictional and constitutional questions. The appeal court's role was crucial in clarifying the limits of judicial review in this sensitive area. In its decision, the Federal Court of Appeal confirmed that the federal court does have jurisdiction to grant certiorari to quash administrative decisions that infringe constitutional rights. This is a significant point because it affirms that administrative tribunals are not above the law, especially when fundamental rights are at stake. The court emphasized that constitutional protections apply in all contexts, including administrative proceedings. Regarding the alleged charter infringement, the court carefully analyzed whether the tribunal's decision violated Ashurova's rights to life, liberty, and security of the person. The right to life is obviously fundamental, but in immigration law, the right to liberty and security often takes center stage because decisions can affect personal freedom and safety. The court recognized that these rights can be engaged by administrative decisions, but not every adverse ruling will amount to a charter breach. Finally, on the standard of review, the court navigated the delicate balance between respecting administrative expertise and ensuring constitutional safeguards. The ruling clarified that when constitutional rights are implicated, courts may apply a more searching review rather than the usual deferential approach. This means administrative decisions affecting fundamental rights warrant careful judicial scrutiny to ensure they comply with the charter. Why does this case matter beyond Ashurova? It sets an important precedent for future immigration and administrative law cases by confirming that courts can and should intervene when constitutional rights are at risk. It also provides guidance on how courts should approach judicial review in these situations, striking a balance between deference and protection of fundamental freedoms. For anyone interested in how Canada's legal system protects individual rights within the complex world of immigration and administrative decisions, Ashurova v. Canada is a must-know case. It highlights the ongoing tension between administrative autonomy and constitutional oversight, reminding us that safeguarding rights is a core function of the judiciary. Thanks for listening to Bench Briefs. Be sure to join us next time for another deep dive into Canadian legal decisions that shape our rights and freedoms. Until then, take care.